Hey everybody, I have a video here for you today, and this is one I've put together a few days ago. Just put some information together, a few thoughts, opinions, and this is the Pinson Mounds in Tennessee. But before I start, I'd just like to say Happy Father's Day to all the fellow dads out there. Hope you enjoy your day. And I'd just like to bring up yesterday's video just for a second. I appreciate the response on that video. I just think this is very important, and we've always had evidence of Paleo Indians, but below ground, and it just makes you wonder what else is below ground. But this is that site in Tennessee called Ice House Bottom, and I'm still not sure what we are looking at here. This is very strange. This appears to be perfectly cut or carved stonework here. I'd really like to hear some opinions on what this is all about down here. And I have stared at this way too long. You notice how all this is flat? These sides here, everything you see is flat, and then you have this one area here that it's coming out, and I'm starting to see an animal's face carved in this stone here, so I think I have looked at this a little too long. But when starting this video series, I had no clue about the response I would get as far as suggestions for videos. These ancient sites are all over the mid and northern and eastern and southern and southwestern, and really the whole part of the country. Maybe the northwest is lacking as much as the middle of the country is, but this was a widespread civilization, and maybe more than one that was here. We know that we have places like Watson Break that go back into the 3000 BCs. We have Poverty Point that was built around the 18th dynasty of Egypt, around 3,500 years ago. We have the mound builders from about 2,500 years ago. We have the Cahokia people from maybe about 1,000, 1,500 years ago. So it seems there were many cultures at many different periods of time. But this is the Pinson Mound site here. But here, I told you all these sites are treated differently in different parts of America. Here we have a museum built right into a platform mound. And then down here we have a large mound that is called Saul's Mound. That is really the main large, and I think the earliest feature at this site. And there could be a couple cultures building here, but can't really see it here, but I'll just show you a few pics. Now here is Saul's Mound. This is the main ancient conical pyramid at the site. I think this comes from about 2,000 years ago. I think this is 1,000 years earlier than the Cahokia people. So I think we have different periods of building here, and they're kind of all lumped into the mound builders. Here is what it looks like from overhead. Not much to be seen. You can make out the main mound and then just a tiny bit of that Saul's Mound. But let's look at a diagram of what this whole park looks like. Here is a look at all the mounds that are documented. Saul's Mound is the large conical mound, and then the platform mound that the museum is in. Over here we have a large geometric earthwork, and that seems to be consistent with these really early conical mounds that were built maybe 2,000 years ago, give or take, a few hundred years. The dating is really hard to pinpoint. But when you have the large earthwork, that just hints of something really ancient, and you see there's a little mound inside of this earthwork. Now back on Google Earth, that Henge is right in this area here, and I think you can kind of make it out here maybe, and maybe a mound right here. But this area around the park is pretty interesting to look at if you like looking at Google Earth. If you go over straight to the west here, there seems to be some mounds in this area. And also, is this a dry river bed or a kind of a stream or canal type thing? But there is some evidence of some mounds right here. And also, just back this way, seems right in the middle of these large properties owned by these people, there is evidence of some ancient structures right here. That is what it looks like in my mind's eye. Now let's just do a little reading. It says, for several hundred years, maybe about 200 BC until about 750 AD, What is believed to have been the tallest man-made object in the land we now call the United States? Well, the answer is Saul's Mound at the Pinson Mound State Archaeological Park. And maybe. Pinson Mounds is in Madison County, about 8 miles south of Jackson. Today it is an out-of-the-way place, but there is every reason to believe that at one time this was one of the most important places in North America. We're going to show you around, but first we need to give you some background. Prehistoric refers to things that took place before people and societies referred to had a written language. Pinson Mounds contains the remains of Native American community that existed in prehistoric time and was abandoned long before European settlers arrived in Tennessee. People have discovered the remains of Native American mound communities all over Tennessee. Most of these mounds have been destroyed over the years, cleared by farmers or by people building highways or new buildings. Pinson Mounds, on the other hand, is protected under the government ownership, as are other mound complexes such as Sellers Farm in Wilson County and Harpeth River in Cheatham County. It says, the thing that has to be emphasized about Pinson Mounds is its size. Compared to places like Sellers Farm and Harpeth River, Pinson is huge. The complex covers 500 acres, and there are known to be at least 17 man-made mounds here. Among them are Saul's Mound, which is 72 feet high, and that appears to be roughly, and if you take into the account that it was probably eroded a little bit, but that seems to be the average height of these conical mounds that come from about 2,000 years ago. It says Osier Mound, 33 feet high, and many others that you can see from a distance. It says Pinson Mounds was occupied during the Woodland era, which went from around 1000 BC until about 1080. During the Woodland era, permanent towns were formed. People began making pottery out of clay, and agriculture became common. Based on the things that have been found at the site, activity at Pinson Mounds appears to have taken place between 200 BC and 500 AD. It says evidence seems to indicate that at first Pinson was mainly a residential community where people lived, but as the years went by it evolved into more of a ceremonial and religious place which people visited but didn't live permanently. So this place, as in places in Peru, in Egypt, and all over the world, cultures that lived in this area after these people who built these structures came here, well, the people that inhabited this land revered these places. They were built by people who they almost considered godlike figures. So, yes, it was visited, offerings were left, and that's common throughout these sites. It says the people who built Pinson Mounds appear to have been somewhat knowledgeable about astronomy. And it says if you stand on the top of Saul's Mound on the spring equinox and the fall equinox and watch the sunrise, you'll notice that it rises directly behind mound number 29. Many archaeologists believe that this is not a coincidence after all. Other mound sites in the world from this time period are arranged with astronomy in mind. One common theory is that ceremonies occurred during spring equinox and fall equinox, and that was related to planting and harvesting. Maybe, but if you're smart enough to build a huge structure and align it with other structures to the movements of the heavens, I think you're smart enough to know when to plant and harvest crops. Now, some of the smaller tombs had burials and cremation remains in them. It says here, in 1983, for instance, archaeologists discovered a single tomb with the bodies of 8 young women in it. All were wearing headdresses decorated with copper ornaments, and some wore freshwater pearls. It says in an adjacent tomb, 4 older men were found buried together. We don't know why these people were buried together or why the women were buried with exotic jewelry, but some have theorized that these people were elite. The bodies were covered up after being discovered, and there have not been any digs on the twin mounds in recent decades. Now here is an old pic from the Tennessee State Library of the twin mounds at the site. It says the discovery of copper ornaments and marginella shells tells us something else about Pinson Mounds. The copper apparently came from the Great Lakes region, the shells from the Gulf of Mexico, so the very existence of these items tells us that there were extensive trade routes during the Woodland era. Now here is Atlas Obscura, and I will leave this link below, but it has a few pics here of the Pinson Mound site, and it says over a dozen Native American earth mounds dating back over 2,000 years. And the dating on this, I would say these people arrived here at least 2,500 years ago originally. Here's another look at Saul's Mound, certainly reminiscent of other mounds I have featured, conical type earthen pyramids. Now here's the posting. I will leave the link below, but it says knee rattles made from human skulls found in Pinson Mounds. So I thought you guys might want to check these out. These were found in the Duck's Nest Mound on a highly decorated man. It says, sorry the pics are not the best, but they are made with human skulls with woven snakes engraved in them. And here, blown up, these are the knee rattlers made, I guess, from human skulls with the snake emblazoned on them. And here are those Marijanella shells, I think they're called, from the Gulf of Mexico. And here is the underside of those skull knee rattles. Now let's just read briefly about these knee rattles made with human skulls. And they have serpent symbolism on them. And these, to me, seem very strange. And it says, for the first time, roughly 2,000 years ago, in eastern North America, human bone becomes a widespread craft medium. It says, during the same period, human bones become an important material for the production of a variety of standardized material forms. Some of these appear to be shamanic or transformative in character, such as musical instruments, tubes, rattles, whistles, gorgets, while others do not. And I talked about the shamanic. It appears they had shamanic rituals a couple thousand years ago, and maybe some mind-altering chemicals. It says, most remarkable of all, the mound art are the intricate, conventionalized engravings on human bones found in the Hopewell and Turner groups by Moorhead and Putnam. It says 2 engraven rattles fashioned from human cradles were worn at the knees, as were several strings of ovoid shell beads. Since both man and beast of various kinds have an important place in Aboriginal mythology, it is to be expected that in numerous instances their bones had a special sacred significance and use. Now there are other examples of these knee rattles, they are called, made with skulls, and this comes from a museum way down in Mexico. Now here is some work going on at Pinson Mounds, and maybe this is the one they put the museum right into. That's what I'm assuming, but there were some good-sized mounds here. Here you look at one of the mounds. That is one of the lesser-known features. Probably not part of the main park. Now here is some of the arrowheads and stone tools that were found here. Just a few of them. Here is a look at some more things, and they're kind of designated by which mound they were found at. Here is some copper jewelry that was found at the Pinson Mounds, and this came from the Great Lakes area, northern Michigan. And I want to say this, my thoughts are going out to all of my relatives who live up in the very northern part of Michigan, who are going through at this moment some horrific flooding. I just wanted to add that. Around the Houghton Hancock area, I was horrified by what I saw earlier. But here at the Twin Mounds, some women were found in here with copper headdresses, many shell beads from the Gulf of Mexico. So 2 very important royal women were found here. Also at the Pinson Mound Museum, I guess they have skulls of animals, megafauna, that are now extinct. Here we see a big cat, and also Mastodon bones. Mastodon bones were found in this area. Animals that went extinct a long, long time ago were found here, or near here. This is the Pinson Mound site, and as I said at the beginning of this series, you never know what you're going to find when you start looking into these sites individually. There is a large henge here that is over 3 football fields long, one of the largest that I have found in this series. This was obviously a very important place. Hope you thought this was cool, and you all have a very nice day.